Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. We're going to make a card, but I just want to give you just kind of an update on my channel. I'm not going to be doing videos every week like I was trying to do. One, it's spring here in Alaska, so it is warming up and time gets busier in the spring and summer when we're able to go. But also I just have some other things that I need the time for, and making videos does take a lot of time. So I will make videos. It's not going to be weekly, and there won't be really any schedule. It will be as time allows. But I do have customers that and the rest of my YouTube followers that do enjoy the videos, so I'm going to keep making them. They just won't be as consistent, and I don't know when they'll get back to being that way. That being said, today it's probably like a kind of like a scrap buster, I guess. You could use some of your scraps, small pieces of scraps. There is this shape that I have been seeing on Pinterest that I'm in love with, and I've played with it a little bit. I'm going to play with some more, but I'm going to show you a couple of samples, a couple of cards that we're going to make. I'm going to show you some of my samples here, two of them. So one of them is this card here. I'm using the paper that we got, I think it's Dainty Flowers. That was, yes, Dainty Flowers. That was a free celebration item. And I have some smaller pieces, so I'm using that to create my card here. I'm going to be using the Go-To Greetings. And from the Quiet Meadow, there's a couple of butterfly dies. There's this one here. And this one here. This one here is the one I'm going to be using. And I did cut a butterfly out of the back side of the Dainty Flowers with a purple one, and I also cut one from white and layered them so it was thicker going on here. So we're going to do one of these cards, and then I'm going to show you how to turn this into a butterfly. Okay, and I'm going to use the Stamparatus, and we're going to do some embossing today as well. I'm going to set those aside right now. So the colors I'm going to be using for this, I have a piece here. This is one of the pieces from the Dainty Flowers. It has the purple, the mossy meadow, and the old olive colors in here. And then the back has the blue, but I'm not using the back today. I'm just going to use the front. And I'm using mossy meadow, and I'm using a piece of basic white cardstock for the front and for the inside. And we'll go ahead and just glue that inside. I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm going to leave it as it is, but just get this on there so that part is done. Okay. And it's a really simple card and fun to do with scraps. You can do a lot more with these shapes just by cutting them into different sizes. So the sizes I'm using here, we're going to set this aside because we're not going to use that right now. The sizes I'm using here these are 1.5 inch squares. And what I did is now I've probably messed it all up. I cut a 3x3 piece. And then cut them into 1.5 inch squares from that. So I kind of have this picture right here. And so you can see that sheet, and when I put it on, I will have it with the lines broken up. Now you're gonna wanna make sure you pay attention to the orientation. If you have an orientation like this one is, you wanna make sure that you pay attention to that when you're creating these cards with this design. If it's just a pattern with no direction, then you can just pay attention to where your corners are so you don't cut or corner around your wrong corners. To get the border pieces, So remember, these are cut into, I cut it into 3 by 3 for the picture, and then cut it into 1.5 inch pieces. This is 1 5/8, so I just went up 1/8 of an inch to get the green border around, and for that. So I think the first thing I want to do to prepare the mat, because I'm going to use this white mat that's going to go on this mossy meadow right here. So I'm going to, and this is just a trimmed quarter, so this is 4 by 5 1/4. And I've got my butterfly here in these pieces, but I'm going to prepare this white piece here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp a greeting, and I'm going to use the large happy birthday right here from this Go-To Greetings. Go ahead and pull that out, and I'm going to use my Stamparatus. I love this thing. Love, love, love the Stamparatus. It's an amazing tool. Just going to move those off to the side for the moment. I'm going to get this lined up in here. I'm just kind of line it up with the lines. You can also get grid paper, which will probably be on my next order, to put in here, so if I want to draw a line or whatever to help with that, I can. And because this is the red rumper stamp, you don't need the foam that comes with this. And so I'm just going to line this up kind of towards the bottom here and try to make sure it's straight. I'm going to pull it out for a second just so I can get my head over it. Just make sure the sentiment is straight. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up, and I can kind of tell that is actually not straight. There are some lines on this, and it goes under the letters, and you can kind of tell by looking at that as well. So I'm going to redo this. Okay, I think that looks a little bit better here. That's close enough. So for this card that we're making, since I'm using Mossy Meadow as the background, I'm going to go ahead and stamp in the Mossy Meadow ink for the greeting. And when using the Stamparatus, it's easier because there is some height just to slide your stamp case underneath it, and that helps so that you can ink up your stamp. So we're going to go ahead and get that stamped up, or inked up. Just going to put that on there and just lightly give it a little bit of pressure. You don't want to press too hard, because I get ink on the outside of my stamps, and I don't want to get that ink on there, and that is not. So I'm going to just push on those words a little bit and get that. That's the nice thing about the Stamparatus. It's all lined up. I am going to ink up just a little bit more on this side here, and you can re-ink because it's already lined up and get a nice solid image, and that looks nice. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to clean up my stamp here really quick with my chamois. I'll leave that there for right now because I'm going to use that again for the next card. All right, so I wanted to add a little bit more to this card, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to emboss it with this embossing folder. This is one of the, it's a 3-pack of embossing folders that you can get on the online exclusives on my website. You won't find it in a catalog, it's only available online, but it has this one and like some bubble dots and this floral motif one. So there's 3 different ones, and these are 3D embossing folders. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and emboss this and get that ready, and then we will prepare our cards. I'm just going to run over here and do that really quick. Okay, and there we go, our piece is embossed. And then we can go ahead and attach this piece to this card base. Okay. All right. Okay, now that's attached. So this is all ready for us to assemble the card, but what we need to do is we need to get these pieces ready. So what I've done is I'm kind of just using this as a reference point so I can see where to get my corners, because this is directional. I want it to face a specific way and to get this look. So I'm going to just set this up. And I'm using my, you can use any corner rounder you have. I'm using my corner chomper, and I have a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch side. For these larger pieces, these 1.5 inch pieces, and these I'm going to use the 1/2 inch side. So the first square needs to have a corner round here and a corner round here. So I'm just going to stick that in and around those corners. And they're opposite corners that you're rounding. So once you do one, you know you're going to need to do the opposite. And then for this one, I need this corner and this corner rounded. And then opposite right here, I need those corners rounded. And I like to lay this out when I'm doing it so I get the right corners rounded. And then for this one, I need these 2 corners rounded. Okay. Then this one, these you don't, it doesn't really matter. It's plain color, so you can just round opposite corners, two sides opposite each other. That makes it a lot easier when you're just needing to get the mats ready for those pieces that we did. Okay, so we've got those pieces cut. Now we can adhere these pieces to their mats. And this is going to leave just the smallest border. And I'm still keeping it in order just for me, so I don't, because I will get it flipped around. Kind of center that on there so you got a little bit of a green border. Go ahead and put that there, and then the next one. And get all these pieces mounted on their mats. Now if you notice, all the pointed ends are pointing in and they're pointing out. Okay, there's all my pieces mounted on their mats, and now I can mount it on my card. And what I like to do is I like to take these pieces, at least the 2 top pieces, and kind of figure out where I want them to be so I can kind of center them best I can on the card. And once I get them kind of where I want, I'll put one down. Once you have one down, it's easier to follow along with the other 3 pieces. Okay, and then we'll attach this one. Again, taking care that you are paying attention to the orientation and not flipping it. Okay, looks pretty good. So there, you could do this card just as it is. You can have equal gaps between the two, or do like I did, a larger gap there, smaller there. It doesn't really matter, whatever looks good to you. Now I have this butterfly that I'm going to attach right there in the center. And this is the one that I cut with the Quiet Meadows butterfly. And then also I cut it out of the DSP, and then I also cut a piece of white and glued them together so I would have a thicker piece to put there in the center. Now another fun thing to do, your card's complete, you don't have to do anything else with this. But one thing I have done with the cards is I have taken my Wink of Stella, and I like a little bling on my cards, and I'm trying to make flat cards because I am making cards for my church. And it's just easier to mail if they're flat and don't have any other puffy embellishments. So this one would go through the mail just fine with a regular stamp. So I add a little bit of Wink of Stella, and another thing is we could go along and just follow the words and add some right here in the greeting. And add a little bit of sparkle. I love this Wink of Stella pen. It's just a nice, handy little tool to have when you just want to add a little something extra to your card. Now if you do this while the ink is wet, when you're done tracing over it, it will tend to pick up a little ink. You just need to, this one didn't because the ink was dry, you just need to wipe, brush it off on the side. I don't know what to call this shape, but there's that card, and I think it's beautiful. It's very simple and very pretty. Another thing you can do with that shape is make a butterfly. So I'm going to show you how to do this as well, and I'm going to actually, the one I've prepared is going to be a little bit different. We're going to matte it on color, so we're going to step it up just a little bit. So I'm using Gorgeous Scrape Bermuda Bay, and I have a whole stack of paper from Tone on Tone DSP. They're 6x6 packs that are a variety of colors. So I've chosen a few colors to go together just to kind of make a fun, bright, bold set. So again, we're going to go ahead and mount this, and we're going to get our white pieces ready before we put together. I show you and you put together the pieces for the butterfly. There we go. Okay, so we got that piece. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to stamp on this, and we're going to stamp Happy Birthday on it. And I'm noticing that on my last card there was a little bit of ink from when I was playing, so we're gonna just kind of wipe that off here. Make sure there's no more ink on it. And then we're going to do the happy birthday on here, and because I don't actually have any of the ink colors for the one color paper and cards I'm using, we're just going to do black, a black happy birthday on this. This under here. And because I left this on, and then that's the nice thing, if you know where you've lined up your card base, and you can leave the stamp on and just stamp multiple times and it's already all lined up for you. Give it a few seconds to let the ink soak in. And now I'm going to do one more pass because I want it a little bit bolder. That looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and clean this off really quick. This off, and then we're going to go emboss this. I'm going to use the same embossing folder. Make sure it's dry first. Okay, that should be good. And I'm going to go ahead and get this embossed. I'll be right back. Okay, now we have that all embossed, and we're going to go ahead and attach it to our gorgeous grape cardstock. Okay, now that's all attached. All right, so for the butterfly, you will need 2 different sizes. So this here, and how I came up with the sizes is I just started cutting printer paper. So I did a 1.5 inch square, and I did a 1 1/4 inch square. So to get a good, this proportion, I went down for the bottom wings 1/4 inch. So whatever size you're going to make the top, you go 1/4 inch to get this ratio less than what you cut the top. And then to get the mats, because we're going to mat this next butterfly, you're going to go up 1/8 inch just to get that little bit of a border around for each one. So this mat is going to be 1 3/8 inch. And this mat is going to be 1 5/8 inch. I'm going to do the same thing and use this as my reference. So here I've already pre-cut my sizes. I just need to do the corner rounds. And this one's kind of directional. So this is the same paper pack, but I'm flipping to get a different pattern on the card. This card here, I did the same thing, but what I did is I glued this down. I actually drew with my Stampin' Blends marker black, I drew the line with a ruler. I just followed it up and then drew my little antennas for the butterfly, glued these pieces on and did the sentiment, and then ran it through the embossing folder so it's totally quilted on here. I'm not going to do that with this one. So again, I'm using my 1/2 inch side on my corner rounder here, And I'm going to use this to figure out where I need my corners rounded. So this has a corner round here and here, and remember it's opposite sides. And then we're going to do the same thing here. With this one, you just two, you know, the opposite side. Doesn't matter which two corners you do. Okay, so this and this. Now we need the inside corner and the farthest outside one here. This ready. And the points face in. And then on this one we need this end, this corner here done. And then two corners here. And then we need this these two opposite corners rounded. Okay, now that we have those all cut, we're going to go ahead and attach them to their mats. There we go. Get that centered a little bit. So that one goes with that. Okay, and these last two pieces. There are so many different designs you can do with these shapes, and you can play with, like I did, just cut up some printer paper in different size squares that you want round the corners and just lay them out on your base and see what kind of pattern, you know, you want to do with them. This is just two of the simpler ones that I've seen that I wanted to figure out how to make. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take these two larger pieces here and see where we want to lay them up, how we want to get them laid out. And then once you attach one, now I've got glue on my hand so everything's sticking. Once you attach one, you will be able to line up the rest. So we're going to do this one first. Okay. I'm just going to pick this up, make sure that's lined up and straight. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to do anything in this butterfly shape like I did with drawing the black line to give it more. I think it's this one I'm just going to leave just with the papers, and I'm not going to do anything else with it. just needs a little bit more space right there. It's okay. All right, and you can obviously have it closer together. So there's our butterfly shape. Now, I may take something and put it through there later. Once I figure out what I want to do there, I could use twine, gems, a thin piece of cardstock just to run up the side. So there's a few things you could do with this. And I have one of these glue erasers and I made a little bit of a mess. I'm gonna get that off really quick. Took me forever to find one of these. Okay, so there's your butterfly shape for that card, and I think that's very, very pretty too. So I've shown you the butterfly shape. I've shown you how to make this card. I'm going to show you a couple more variations that I did. So this one here, I actually cut a 3x3 piece of white, basic white cardstock, and I stamped on it. This is one of the celebration stamps, I can't think of the name right now, that I stamped on here. Then I added some of the splatters with this neutral base. And then I cut it into 3x3 and did the mounting on it, just like we did on this card. So if you don't have any pretty DSP and you want to or you just want to use your stamp sets, you could certainly create something on a piece of white, cut it up, and do your bases, and you've got this really pretty card. Then I was playing with some of my, Tone on Tones cardstocks and just did 2 different colors with the matching cardstock is this one right here, and then this color with the green leaf punch that I have, and added that on there, and I thought that turned out very pretty. And then here's another butterfly one. I did 2 layers of the rounded squares, tone on tone, with 2 different patterns for the top and the bottom, and then I added these gems for the butterfly, and I thought that turned out really, really cute. So there's a lot more things we can do with this shape. I love this shape. I don't know what it's called. I am going to play with some more layouts and see what else I can come up with. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you on the next one.